I had always believed that hard work and dedication would be rewarded. I'd poured my heart and soul into the marketing firm, staying late and forgoing weekends while my friends enjoyed their lives. All I wanted was a pat on the back in the form of my annual bonus. But there I was, sitting in the cold, sterile office, my heart simply shattered. They can't just take it away, I muttered to myself, disbelief flooding my veins. My phone vibrated incessantly, notifications lighting up. It was my colleagues, expressing their shock and outrage. With my head swirling, I grabbed the company's contract, looking for answers. The smell of old paper filled the air as I flipped through the thick document in desperation, feeling the weight of every regret and late nights spent working for the very people who seemed ready to snatch away my hard-earned reward. Then my eyes caught something, a little clause tucked away, almost like a time bomb waiting to be activated. I read it twice, my heart racing. If the company acts in bad faith, the partnership may be voided. A smile crept across my face. Could I actually use this to my advantage? Determined, I reached out to a few trusted co-workers, people I knew shared my frustrations. "Can you believe they've done this?" I exclaimed during our clandestine meeting at the corner cafe, the aroma of fresh coffee swirling around us. "They think we'll just take it lying down." Their eyes sparkled with a mix of anger and excitement, and in that moment, I knew we were in this together. As we strategized and shared our own ideas of malfeasance, the tension built like a tightrope about to snap. With every revelation, the thrill of the chase electrified the air around us. We began gathering evidence, our camaraderie deepening even as the risks grew. I remember whispering to Sarah, a junior analyst whose enthusiasm echoed my own. "If we can show they acted in bad faith, we've got leverage like they never expected." But as I prepared to confront the very people who had discarded years of loyalty, a sense of foreboding sank in. Did I really have the power to turn this around, or was I playing with fire? As the clock ticked down to our confrontation, a shadow seemed to loom over us. What if they retaliated? Before we continue with this surprising revelation, a quick alert for you who follow our stories. YouTube has been removing subscriptions lately, so check if you're still subscribed and leave your like to support the channel. Now, back to the crucial moment. Would the truth set us free, or would we ignite a chaos we weren't prepared to face? As the day of reckoning approached, an unsettling mix of anticipation and fear coursed through my veins. It was like preparing for a storm, the kind that could either cleanse or destroy. My small coalition of disgruntled co-workers had become my lifeline, each of us feeding off the adrenaline of our shared mission. It was no longer just about a bonus. It was about reclaiming our dignity and standing against a corporate Goliath. We gathered in our favorite hidden spot, a dimly lit booth at a nearby diner, where the booths offered enough privacy for our hushed conversations. The smell of sizzling burgers hung heavy in the air, almost a comfort amidst the brewing rebellion. "I've got copies of the meeting minutes from last quarter," Sarah whispered, her fingers trembling with excitement as she slid the documents across the table. "Look here. It clearly shows decisions made in the interest of profit, disregarding employee welfare." I scanned the pages, feeling the heat of our shared frustration, boiling into something fierce and unstoppable. "This is it," I breathed, realization washing over me like a wave. "We can tie their actions directly to our claims of bad faith. We just need to be strategic about how we present this." The burden of what lay ahead felt lighter now that there was a plan, a tangible path to reclaiming what was rightfully ours. But amidst the hope, shadows flickered into view. The management team had eyes everywhere, and someone in our group could become a liability. What if they turned on us? What if the powerful executives caught wind of our scheming? As I looked around at my friends, faces etched with determination, A spark ignited in my heart. This wasn't just about revenge, it was about building a force for change and standing together against the tide. As the clock ticked down, I felt an electric charge in the air, each second stretching into eternity, pushing us closer to that pivotal moment when we would reveal the truth. Would we be the harbingers of a new era in the company? Or would our efforts crash like waves against the shore, leaving just whispers of our defiance? I caught myself staring into the diner's mirror, seeing not just my reflection, but the potential for what we could accomplish together. And just then, a name flashed in my mind. Tom, our director, known for his ruthless approach to the business. What would his reaction be when faced with our stunning revelation? This wasn't just a battle for a bonus. It was about challenging a culture of exploitation. Stay with me as the next chapter unveils the chilling confrontation that could change everything. As the sun set on the day of reckoning, I could feel the tension hanging thick in the air, almost palpable as we gathered in our makeshift war room. The dim light of our meeting place did little to mask the weight of what was about to unfold. My heart raced with every beat, echoing the collective anxiety of my colleagues. "Are we really ready for this?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Once we start, there's no turning back." Sarah, always the optimist, offered a reassuring smile. "We've got the proof, and we've got each other. We're not walking into this blindly." Still, doubt crept in like a shadow, gnawing at the edges of my resolve. What if we were outmatched? What if Tom had anticipated our move? With a quick glance at my watch, I pushed those thoughts aside. The time for hesitation was over. Moments later, we filed into the conference room, the sterile environment eerily quiet. It felt like stepping into a lion's den. Tom sat at the head of the table, flanked by two other executives, his expression a mix of annoyance and intrigue as he eyed our team. "I trust you all have something important to discuss," he began, his voice dripping with condescension. I took a deep breath, heart pounding loudly in my ears. "We do," I replied, trying to project confidence despite the stakes that hung heavy in the air. One by one, my colleagues presented the evidence, meeting minutes, emails, everything meticulously compiled to support our claims. As the implications of our findings settled over the room, I could see the color draining from Tom's face. His eyes narrowed as he leaned forward. "You think this will intimidate me? You're messing with forces you can't comprehend." An unsettling chill slid down my spine. This was no longer just about a bonus. It was about justice, exposed intentions, and something much larger than ourselves. And then came the moment of truth, a game changer that shifted the power back into our hands. I stood taller, grounding myself in that unsettling glare. "We don't want to fight, but we will if we have to. You've acted in bad faith, and this partnership is at stake." The room fell silent, every word hanging heavy like a hammer poised to fall. But just as I thought victory was within reach, someone from our group hadn't shared their cards. A shadow of fear flickered in their eyes. What if they turned traitor? What if they were terrified of losing everything? The very foundation of our rebellion began to tremble, and I realized that alliances aren't just forged in the fire of loyalty, but can be scorched by the flicker of fear. As Tom smirked, his demeanor shifting, I knew we were teetering on the brink of something explosive. The choices we made in that moment would define us. But did we have what it took to stand firm? Stay tuned for the unfolding consequences that would challenge our resolve and test the limits of our daring mission. The air in the conference room was electric with uncertainty as I stood on the precipice of a revolution, my heart pounding like a war drum in my chest. Tom's smirk sent a wave of defiance coursing through me, a reminder that we were not only challenging his authority, but were also risking everything. "Look," I said, trying to ground my voice against the tidal wave of tension. This isn't just business anymore. This is personal. You've demoralized the very people who make this company thrive. No, Joe, I could see the flicker of anger in Tom's eyes as he glanced at his colleagues, each of them sizing us up like an impromptu audience deciding whether to applaud or jeer. I continued, "We've worked tirelessly for this company. And for what? Just to be thrown aside like we don't matter?" The passion in my voice wasn't just for theatrics. It was a reflection of the countless sacrifices we had all made. One of my co-workers, Jake, spoke up, his voice stronger than I expected. "This is about our futures too. We're not just going to back down because you're being sinister. If you think you can manipulate us with threats and keep us in line, you're mistaken." His words galvanized the room, a flicker of solidarity igniting in my colleagues' expressions. But Tom wasn't ready to back down. "You think this is a game? Let me remind you who holds the cards. You may have your little minutes and discussions, but this company has deeper resources and connections than you can imagine." There was a chilling finality in his tone, a dark thread running through his words that sent a shiver down my spine. I glanced at the faces of my colleagues, fear mingled with determination in their eyes. Outwardly, we had each other's backs, but inside, doubt loomed. If Tom's threats had even a shred of truth, we might be fighting a losing battle. And then it hit me. What if we turned the tables? What if we exposed not just the feeling of betrayal, but also the systemic issues that had plagued the company? "Enough of your intimidation tactics, Tom," I said, my voice gaining strength like the tide rising against the shore. "We're not afraid of you. What we have in our hands is bigger than your petty authority. It's the truth." My confidence surged unexpectedly, and I could see that my words planted seeds of courage in those around me. Sarah chimed in. "We're going to initiate an open dialogue about how this company operates. Your methods have failed us, and it's time for a change." The enthusiasm in her voice echoed in the room, a compelling call for justice. Tom's expression darkened, a storm brewing in his eyes. "You really think you can spark a change? Do you have any idea how many people would gladly take your jobs? You're not the first to think they could outsmart me." But Jake spoke up again, an edge in his voice. "Maybe we're not the first, Tom, but we're the last you'll take for granted. There's strength in unity, and we're united in this. We'll go higher than you ever anticipated." As the tension escalated, I felt an unusual sense of clarity enveloping me. I was lost in the cause, knowing instinctively that this moment would ripple outward like concentric circles on the surface of a lake. If we were to succeed, we needed to stand firm together. Right then, right there, a sudden idea crossed my mind. The company had a reputation. There were whispers of mismanagement and unethical practices that, if researched properly, could not only back our claims but shatter any credibility Tom held. Let's take this to the media. Let's expose how we've been treated and how this company operates not just towards its employees but also in its dealings. The room buzzed with a mix of apprehension and exhilaration. We had crossed a threshold. I could see my colleagues processing the enormity of what we were suggesting. "Are you sure about this?" one quietly asked. "What if they retaliate?" And that was the crux of it. The fear of retaliation was a tangible force, but the prospect of being silent, of giving into the unfairness that had haunted us, was terrifying. I took a deep breath, looking around at my allies. The worst they can do is threaten us further, but silence won't save us. We need to shine a light on their actions. Are we really willing to let them continue exploiting us? This is our moment. Jake and Sarah exchanged glances, and slowly their nods solidified my resolve. "Let's do it," said Sarah, her eyes sparkling with determination. "We'll not only stand our ground, but become the change we want to see in this company." As the vote for action was unanimously passed, the energy shifted. We were no longer just employees in a corporate game. We were warriors at the gates, ready to confront the reality we had long accepted as inevitable. Tom leaned back in his chair, an unsettling calmness spreading across his face, masking something deeper. "You're making a grave mistake," he said, every word steeped in threat. "Not everyone will support your little uprising." And suddenly the room felt cold again, the weight of the moment pressing down like a heavy fog. I realized we were facing something much greater than just a boardroom battle. We were pushing against a fortress built on years of manipulation and deceit. As I looked around at the team that had rallied behind me, I felt a deep sense of unity. We understood the stakes, and despite the looming threat of retaliation, we had each other's backs. Now more than ever, we were committed to fighting. Not just for our bonuses, but for every voice that had been silenced. As we prepared to walk out, to take our battle into the world beyond those walls, I felt the stirring of hope intertwining with the fear. This was our narrative to reclaim, and as we stepped outside, it was like releasing 1,000 butterflies into the sky, each one representing our desire for change. Little did we know that the challenges we were about to face would be nothing compared to what awaited us next. What would happen when the media got involved? Would we become heroes in our corporate story? Or would we be met with the wrath of an empire unwilling to change? The stakes just got higher, and the next chapter promised to reveal the looming danger. A collision course with the very system we intended to dismantle. Join me in the next installment, where we face the unpredictable consequences of our choices, navigating the storm that was just beginning to brew. With hearts racing and adrenaline pumping, we walked out of the conference room, united in purpose yet keenly aware of the storm we had just invoked. Each step felt heavier, as if we were walking towards both liberation and chaos. The implications of our decision hung in the air like charged particles before a thunderstorm, electric and uncertain. "Did we just do that?" Sarah whispered, the disbelief etched across her face as we gathered in our hidden space again, the diner's booth that had become our sanctuary. "I can't believe we've turned the tide," Jake added, a mix of exhilaration and apprehension coursing through him. "But the question is, what's next?" As we parsed through ideas, a buzzing energy enveloped us. We were on the brink of something groundbreaking. Yet the looming threat from Tom and the upper management felt like a dark cloud ready to burst. "Let's leverage social media," I suggested, my mind racing with possibilities. "We'll share our story, our experiences. If we can get this narrative out to the public, we may push them into a corner they have no choice but to respond to." The group nodded in agreement, fueled by the thought of turning our plight into a broader movement. Each of us began collating our notes and testimonials, building a foundation for our story, one that would resonate beyond the sterile walls of our office. "It's not just us anymore," I said, excitement building. "We're becoming the voice for every employee who has ever been silenced or overlooked." Hours passed, filled with brainstorming and strategizing, but my mind also churned with doubt. Was this really what we wanted? Or were we about to plunge into a world far more treacherous than we anticipated? Fear gripped me momentarily, but my colleagues' determination reassured me. Each individual there represented hope, each voice a part of this growing movement. As night fell, I sat quietly, reflecting on what we had started. This was no simple quest for recognition. We were challenging a culture that thrived on control and discrimination. For the first time, I felt liberated, unshackled from the corporate chains that had bound me for years. The next day was a whirlwind. We went live on social media, sharing our stories, backed by hard evidence of the persistent foul play nurtured within the firm's hollow walls. With each post, the momentum swelled. Support flooded in not just from colleagues, but from strangers, workers in similar predicaments, who rallied behind our cause. And then came the inevitable response from the company. Tom forwarded a statement accusing us of discontent fueling baseless claims. Oh, yet the backlash turned into a deafening roar against their tyranny. The more they lashed out, the stronger our resolve grew. I knew our fight for justice was turning into a movement, a delicate balance of strategy and raw emotion. But just as we found our footing, small rumblings of retaliation grumbled beneath the surface. As Tom summoned us yet again, tension saturated the air. We were met with his chilling poise. "You should have known better than to cross me. This isn't just a game. You're playing with fire." Yet standing together, my comrades' solidarity fueled me. "This is our moment," I proclaimed, facing him fearlessly. "You may have thought we'd remain silent, but this is about so much more than us. The tides are changing, and we're only getting started." The encounter lit a spark in me that felt unstoppable. As Tom's mask slowly began to crack, we stood on the cusp of a revolution, a collective roar rising against suppression. As I finally took a breath, looking at my friends standing beside me, I couldn't help but smile. "Let's keep going," I urged, our next steps forming in my mind as brightly as the sun-breaking dawn. "We're in this together, and together we'll change the world." If you've been inspired by our battle against the odds, join our community, subscribe, and share our story. Together, we rewrite the narrative of this corporate landscape, one courageous voice at a time. Don't miss out on what unfolds next, because this is just the beginning.